I announced my pregnancy at a very early stage because I was working for a very small company, 5 managers, 5 bosses. I wanted to tell them also to gain some compassion, gain empathy, but instead I was dealing with bullying, and that was the start of the harassment that I encountered.
Vivian Acquah, a DEI leader, will ignite the conversation on diversity, equity, and inclusion as we delve into the challenges women face in the workplace and society.
If you are the only woman or one of the few women in the room and you're working in a male-dominated space, too often you're assumed you're the assistant so you can write better. Do you want to take the notes, right? That's an often thing. And I'm just like, no, you can use AI to do that now, right? So
welcome to the Neurolympics podcast, brought to you by BrainsFirst. And hi, Vivian. So nice to welcome you on our podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. We already had a warm-up in the conversation, right? So I'm looking forward to this conversation as well.
Me too. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's shining. The sun is shining finally in the Netherlands. So I'm excited to enjoy this, and hopefully we get better weather.
More of that.
Yeah.
It does something, right?
Yeah.
It does something to myself, but I also realize in the people around me. It's just like instant happiness boost or something.
Exactly.
So I totally agree. Vivian, when I first heard your story, I was deeply moved because your work, what you do for diversity, equity, and inclusion, short DEI, is deeply personal. Would you take us back to the moment when you realized that this was the mission you needed to dedicate your life to?
Definitely. So I have a very long history as a consultant. I first started my career as a financial consultant and then eventually crossed over to become an IT consultant. And let's say throughout my whole career, I've seen good things happen. I've seen less good things happen. And I've seen bad things happen when it comes to exclusion. And the thing that was the tipping point for me to do the work that I do now was dealing with maternal wall bias, right? Other people may know it as pregnancy bias, being excluded while you are pregnant. And the thing was that I announced my pregnancy at a very early stage because I was working for a very small company, 5 managers, 5 bosses. And I wanted to tell them, I was, I think, about 6 weeks pregnant or so. I wanted to tell them also to gain some compassion, gain empathy. But instead, I was dealing with bullying, right? To me, it felt like I cheated on them by becoming pregnant. And that was the start of the harassment that I encountered, which also impacted my well-being, and it could have impacted my unborn child at the time. So luckily, I had a good midwife who warned me, like, you need to do something. And that's when I took a step back to take an early maternity leave. And the moment that my child was born, I realized things need to change. But also, what do I do, right? Because I've been an IT consultant, financial consultant for a very long time. But throughout my career, I knew that I loved working in change management. Why not dedicate it into employee sustainability? That was the start. And then I came across diversity, equity, and inclusion to activate, inspire people with that topic so that I can create a better work environment for my son for the future.
Wow. This is such a strong storyline. Like, it really, I honestly don't really have words for that because I'm not at a stage where I could have experienced this, and I cannot even imagine how it must have felt. But to hear about this, like, you have good intentions, you're going to share something to your workplace environment that is so beautiful. You're going to get a baby and then to get into this harsh reality of what you experience. I cannot even imagine. But I think it's even more powerful that you turn it now into something beautiful. You know, I think the best things in life come out of this passion and this love because we were heard about something, or we truly want to change something that we experienced as painful. that can be like so powerful. And that's what I love about just you, what you do. And I know you're doing great things, and that you are going to do great things also for your child in the future. So
thank you. Yes. And
nice.
I just want to say that what you shared, I truly acknowledge that, but also acknowledge that even though it's 2025 now, many parents, not only women, I would say many parents are dealing with harshness or harassment when they become a parent, right? Even dads, fathers are doubting themselves, like, should I work part-time? Because if I work part-time, will I be penalized for promotion or not, right? So those are all the things that I want to help people make aware of, that, becoming a parent should not be as a result to penalization for the other individuals. So I want to amplify equity, amplify equality, amplify inclusion when it comes to those topics.
Very strong, Vivian. I love that. You also, when we had our first conversation up front, you shared an artist with me, a female artist, and a theme song that really resonates with you. And I would love for you to share it.
Yes.
What is that theme song? Who is the artist, and what inspires you about it?
Yeah, so a while ago, Alicia Keys won the Grammy. She won the Lifetime Achievement Award, and she mentioned something about diversity, equity, and inclusion as DEI being a gift and not a threat. And when you look at what's happening in the US, but also how what's happening in the US is in a way influencing or impacting what's happening in the EU when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, I love the fact that she used her platform to speak up about something that is important, not only for the US, but worldwide, but also Alicia Keys made sure that she is the person who sang the song "This Girl Is on Fire" to really amplify that, right? Especially with the upcoming International Women's Day, we need to remind women that they are all on fire and that they are unique human beings and that they are amazing human beings, but yet we're still dealing with inequality when it comes to women.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring in this song.
Yeah.
You are on fire. This girl is on fire.
I love that song. And I love Alicia Keys. I think she's so authentic. She's one of the artists I really look at, and I think, wow, she's, it seems like, of course, I don't know her, right? But it seems like she stays true to herself.
Yes,
and I think in this industry, you can easily lose yourself or become someone who you don't want to be. And I hope, at least, that she, that's the impression I have, that she goes through that and stays true to herself.
Definitely.
And shares really important matters like what you just brought up.
Yeah.
And speaking about challenges, now you just touched upon it. What are some of the biggest challenges that women are or still facing in the 21st century when it comes to DEI?
Yeah, so there are different things. I mentioned the pay gap, not getting the same pay as your male colleague, for instance, whilst you're doing the same thing. Luckily, the EU has a pay directive where many companies are being forced to make it more equitable for a lot of women, right? So that's a positive thing. But on the other hand, so many women are getting the interview questions like, are you planning to get a child? Or when do you want to get a child? Are you single? So there are so many personal questions that should not be entered during an interview. And when a woman wants to take a longer leave, they are also being penalized for the gap that they have on their resume, right? And there is this way of thinking in our society that it's normal for women to take the leave. And then when they come back, we doubt them, like, can you combine those two? But who's asking the dads? Who's asking the other partner, like, can you combine having a child, becoming a parent? Can you combine that with their work? I think that men have to answer that question, but yet we ask women a lot of times. And also the age.
That's true.
When you're too young, you already get, that thing of you don't know anything, right? And when you're too old, you're written off because you're a little bit older than the average generation. So
True.
You're doomed if you don't, and you're doomed if you do. That's the case. And I wanna speak on that.
Yeah, it's like I've never really thought about this, but it's so true. Like it's kind of like when you come in at a young age.
Yeah.
I mean, what I just experienced after having graduated, like I'm on my kind of first job after my studies now. And I'm being treated very well, luckily. Feel very happy at the place where I am. But I do know from some of my friends and people who studied with me that this can be really tough. Like you're not being taken so seriously, it seems like. But then, as you mentioned, at a certain age, when you have become a mom, afterwards, you're also not really taken serious, as you mentioned. So this is tough. And it reminds me also, I had a really inspiring conversation once at a train ride from Amsterdam to Frankfurt. And I was sitting next to a woman leader in the field of architecture. Yeah. She was like managing director. And we had a super inspiring conversation. And it came to the point where she said, Lucy, I experienced sitting in a room with a lot of men who are on a job position at the same level. But I was asked if I could go get a coffee. Yeah. For example. Yeah. Yeah. And my mouth was dropping because I'm also I'm so excited to start my career and I want to make something out of my career. But these stories, I'm already I feel tough. I feel like I'm ready. But at the same time, if I would experience something like this, I would, I don't know, fall apart in the inside.
Yeah, but I'm happy that the lady shared her story with you because it can build resilience. It can build, it can build something of, okay, when somebody assumes that you are the assistant, you'll say, okay, you take an order. I also want coffee. Can you grab it for me? Right. So there are different occasions when if you are the only woman or one of the few women in the room and you're working in a male dominated space, that too often you're assumed you're the assistant so you can write better. Do you want to take the notes? Right. That's an often thing. And I'm just like, no, you can use AI to do that now. Right. So there are different ways that we can empower ourselves to battle that conversation and to turn it around. Don't make the assumption. Don't make it normal to assume something. Yeah. And ask a question. What makes you think that I am the coffee lady or the person to bring that?
100%. Yeah. Because I don't want to be perceived, or I don't want maybe a male dominated field to consciously think about treating me in a certain way. I just want it to happen. Yeah. I don't want that there's an effort that has to be put into seeing me with the same eyes as maybe a male leader or a male colleague. Yeah. So if we look at the workplace, when would you consider a workplace to be truly inclusive for women? Like what key factors do you think would need to be present, or which boxes to be ticked?
I would say at least have a conversation with the different women working for the company, right? Because there are women working for a company in different stages. I mentioned, being young is a different stage, but also the stage of becoming a parent. That's also a different stage. The other stage that is an underlooked element that is going to perimenopause, menopause as well, right? That's also impacting in a way the productivity of a woman. Can she stay at home or can she not work from home? All those different elements are very valuable. But personally, and this is, from my book, if I always scan the workplace, as in, do they have a breastfeeding room? If they don't have a breastfeeding room, where are the women supposed to, where are the parents supposed to produce milk? Yeah. Because I've seen occasions where people are being forced to go to the utility room, which is not hygienic, or to go to the restroom, which is not hygienic, or to go to a space that is not hygienic. And I always, share the question like, would you eat your 4-course meal in this particular room? If that's not the case, then why are you creating an environment or placing a woman or placing the parent in that environment where this person is producing stress within the milk, which is also going to cause stress with the baby, right? So I'm not saying, create a pamper room, but create at least a respectful room that is human friendly, germ friendly, where somebody can produce the milk.
So right. It's like it just needs a certain standard, which is not even that we should discuss about this. This should be a given.
I do believe that we need to have conversations with different women from different age groups so that we know and we try and we do our best to become inclusive, right? Because I can bring in my lens, but that's only what I think that is, what a company needs to have. But when you include others in the mix and ask their opinion, that's when, and repeat that, right? Every year, repeat that cycle. That's when I can see a company is doing their best to become inclusive, to become women inclusive. I cannot, say, well, this company does that, this company does this, because it differs from every company. But as long as they include the woman and include intersectionality as well, because there are different women with different values and different aspects or elements of diversity, that's when I truly believe that a company can be inclusive.
That's so right.
Yeah.
And what do you think about, I think it's a quite recent topic that's now also in the news. I think it all started with the second presidency of Donald Trump in the US, that some of the global corporate steps to take is that some companies are now withdrawing a bit or reducing their DEI efforts. For example, I recently read in the news that Google now in the US is taking away, these cultural events like Black Friday, Women's Day.
They are changing their diversity calendar, which is a general thing. Many companies, many people are using that, and it's going to be detrimental for them. And I'm going to explain, and I'll explain it with the example of Target, for instance. Target made a huge announcement last year, or I think beginning of this year. They said that they are walking away, and Target is already feeling that because one of their shareholders is suing Target for misleading the investment, because they invested when Target was heavily active in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then on the other hand, just these few weeks, the shares are dropping when it comes to Target. So their value per share is already lower.
Okay.
If that is not enough, then there is going to be a few boycotts from different ethnicity groups who are going to do a few boycotts every month where they are already feeling the pain. So this is a direct way of a consumer saying, well, if you are not valuing diversity, equity, inclusion, why should I spend my money at you? Whilst Costco, they were also, let's say, harassed by this party that is anti-DEI or anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they said, no, we are going to honor diversity, equity, and inclusion. Better yet, we have seen the value, what it does for our business. You can see also Costco shares going up. You can see also more people signing up for Costco. And it shows that when a company stands firm, it shows that it's going to be, it's going to be rewarded when it's done authentically, though. I do, however, understand that given the US administration going after all these companies who announce that they have DEI, that rebranding is needed. I understand. Those who are rebranding, I understand. McDonald's is somewhere between the rebranding and deactivating, but I do understand that they don't want these being harassed and also don't want to reach the news. They want to do the good work. So rebranding is okay as long as below the surface that you create fairness for all. You amplify equity for all people. I don't believe in excluding the majority. I do believe that it's a combination of the minority and the majority collaborating together and creating space to become a more inclusive company.
Okay, that's so good to hear, because also, I mean, as me, like not working in the field, you know, you read, but that's the general thing with news. You get bombarded by these news, and there's an effective...
also we need to do critical thinking when it comes to the news, because not always, the media is not always fair.
No.
Unbiased.
Yeah.
And always do your fact checking. Yeah. What is the company saying, instead of taking over what the media is saying, right? Because there's a lot of disinformation happening at the moment right now, where a lot of people are copying things. And I want us to activate our critical thinking when it comes to what is being said and what steps are they taking.
Thank you for saying this. And I think it's also good to mention that they do deliberately use some psychological effects that can have on people, like framing negative news, because it creates some fear, it creates some anxiety. Like there's some methods out there that they are definitely aware of how to get into your mind in a certain way. And so thank you for emphasizing this.
And I also want to say that it happened to me. I was crippled in the first week with the amount of the negative news. But then again, you can also choose to distance yourself, to do a detox, or only to limit your news consumption as well. Sometimes you just need to scroll away. The first week, everybody was asking me questions, was going through in my DMs. And I also said, like, I understand the questions that you have. I will address them in one post or one news article. But from now on, I need to limit the news that I have, because every day there's something new. And sometimes it's even 5 things on one day. It's a lot.
It's overwhelming. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. And so you would say, despite whatever happens in the news right now, that you see a positive corporate trend when it comes to DEI on a global level?
I do see. I mean, I see the companies that attended the Davos Summit a while ago, made a firm commitment saying that it works for us. And I know why it works, because they are getting the revenue even better, right? There was one makeup brand, I'm forgetting the name, one makeup brand that is saying that we have been winning when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we are not walking away from that. So I would say keep a close eye on the companies that are walking away from that. Yeah. Keep a close eye on the revenue. Keep a close eye on the amount of vacancies that they have out there. And keep a close eye on who's collaborating with them.
Good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we stick to the workplace, what is a piece of advice that you could share for any woman who feels challenged to advocate for herself in the workplace due to several reasons or experiences?
Find yourself a mentor. If a mentor is not possible, find yourself a sponsor, right? I'm going to quote Carla Harris on this. She's an amazing woman, and she works for one of the big US banks. I don't know the name right at the moment, but it's about her and not where she works. She talks about finding a sponsor, because a sponsor talks about you when you are not in the room, making that connection, and also investing in your own professional development. So don't wait upon somebody sees what you need as professional development, but invest. Find out which courses you can take. If you want to do public speaking, do that. And connect as well. Connect with me to get more information about how you can level up in your career as well. But also find what you need. And if you don't know yet, then have a conversation with a coach to find out what is it that you want to develop. Always keep learning, but don't over consume the learning as well.
Strong women. I like that. Very strong. Yeah. And speaking about taking initiative and becoming active, you became really creative in how companies can level up their DEI efforts by designing cards that you call Amplify DEI Cards, right?
Yeah.
And I would love for our listeners to hear what you do with these cards. And maybe we can showcase also one or two of the cards.
Definitely. So I brought them with me today.
Perfect.
And here they are.
Yeah.
These cards contain a savviness upon me, right? So these cards are divided into unaware, aware, and action. But for those who don't know my style, I love talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion in combination with food. So there is a level of spiciness, intensity level on it. So some cards are connected to paprika, which is mild. Some cards are connected to jalapeno, which is spicy. And some cards are connected to scotch bonnet as well, which is hot. Because they are thought-provoking cards that keep the conversation going, but also people and teams can create their own diversity, equity, and inclusion recipe. I do believe that when a company makes a tagline or one-liner and says, okay, we value diversity, equity, and inclusion because of this, I do believe that every team, every department needs to refine that so that they can craft their own recipe based upon the main ingredients as well. Yeah.
Oh my word. I love that. I love that metaphor and all of it.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And you just also showed it to the camera. Maybe we can, I'm not sure if you picked two.
I have two cards with me. So I have a card that is actionable.
Okay.
And that is also spicy, right?
Yeah.
And the card says, are you challenging systems and processes that are causing inequities at your workplace?
Ooh.
That's a question that the people can ask among themselves, whether it's personal or within the team.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then what are you doing exactly?
I love that. It's like not only shaping awareness, but it's really triggering you to think about it and to start these conversations, right? Yeah, maybe you can tell our listeners where they could find these cards if someone is interested to purchase them, because you sell them, right?
Yeah, I sell them. So these cards are on my website, amplifydei.com. You will see a link leading to the cards, and I also have a discount code which will come with this episode as well. For the people who are ordering that, they can get a 10% discount when they are ordering this. Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. So we will put that later in the show notes and in the description. That's so nice, Vivian. Thank you for offering that.
Thank you as well.
Really cool.
Yeah.
And being on a women's special episode, I do have to bring up the question, of course, who is your woman crush? Who's a woman that really, I mean, you mentioned already in the beginning Alicia Keys, but who's another woman that truly inspires you and why?
Ava DuVernay. She is a movie producer, very famous for her work Origin, but also her work for so many amazing movies right now. She has collaborated with Oprah. She has collaborated with Minda Kaling as well. And she was a woman producing, started her own production house as well, because she didn't see herself, but also didn't see the stories that she is narrating. So she's heavily bringing out stories that are connected to diversity, equity, and inclusion, but also hiring people from different backgrounds within her crew as well. And she mentioned something about, there are no doors opening for me, so I'm going to create my own doors. Something along the line. I'll make sure to share her actual quote. Yeah. But it really resonated with me because of the fact that the work that I'm doing, but also the way that I am supporting companies, I try to bring in innovation, but also bring in a help yourself tool by providing the Amplify DEI Cards so that people can keep the conversation going. People can create their own recipes, because the work isn't done when I leave the company. That's when the work is starting and keep going on, because it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Very good. And I also love, I mean, this is the metaphor, I think, with the spices that you bring in, that when we speak about DEI, I feel like often in our minds could come up like certain standards. And that's also good, because I think we need certain standards. But then to add on to this, that every company every organization can find or need to find their own way of what does DEI mean for us?
Exactly.
How do we deal with it?
Yeah.
How do we address it and put our own touch onto this? I think is really, really important, because in the end, it is, can be differently interpreted. I think still in certain
but also the culture
right?
wise, right? It depends on in which country you live in, because we also have to give respect to the cultural norms and systems there as well. And DEI means differently for everybody. So the moment that we try to demystify that, that's the moment where we can craft a inclusive recipe together to create that workplace, create that environment that where everybody feels safe to be themselves. Yeah.
And who is a woman in your personal life that has really shaped or impacted who you are today?
I would say my grandmother. I mean, I think the majority will go for their mom, which is obvious. But my grandmother, she passed away in 2009. But she shaped the way that I look at things in the world. But also, she shaped my way of using food to seduce people, to embrace the different topics as well, because she was an amazing cook. And I love the fact that I'm in a way honoring her with the work that I'm doing, but also connecting the different ways of how people can use the recipes, like the way that she taught me as well.
That's so nice. Yeah. I also immediately had to think about my auntie. Well, in German, we say Tante Hanne. She passed away when I was, I think, 8 years old. And she's German, but she lived, since she was 30, I think, in Canada. So my mom was also born in Canada. And I still remember her so vividly from when I was younger. I feel like I admired her so much. She passed on to me so much, but I do think she truly lives inside of me, because there's some parts of me that who I want to be, that I recognize her in me. And, I think that's something so beautiful. She was so strong and bubbly, and she was that person who I grew up in a village, and she would say in the morning, "Hey, I'm going to the hairdresser." And then at 6 p.m., me and my mom would go to look for her because she didn't return. And then she was sitting in the backyard of the hairdresser having a whiskey with the husband of the hairdresser, because she just enjoyed her conversation. And, I truly miss her, but, I think we need strong women in our life. And I think it's also so important to think about who are these women that really mean something to us and have impacted us. So I wanted to have that little moment.
Yes, and I agree with everything that you say, but also don't forget how powerful we both are in inspiring other people as well. Right? I also want to acknowledge ourselves as well in this equation, because too often women center other people, put other people on the top, whilst we should put the oxygen mask on ourselves first and then support other people as well. So, yeah.
That's so good. I think you're right. I think we as women are good at, looking up to others, but sometimes forgetting about ourselves. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And I think as a last message, what message would you like to send out to any strong, beautiful woman listening to this episode, watching this episode today?
What I haven't shared before, I would say either become a mentor for somebody else that doesn't look like you, but is maybe a young girl or a young woman, or become a sponsor. And the difference between a mentor is somebody who supports you with the knowledge that you already have and you want to accelerate. A sponsor is the person who talks about you behind closed doors and bringing you into their circles as well. So a sponsor is so much more powerful. So become a sponsor or become a mentor for somebody else.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Vivian, for all your insights and also being so personal on our episode today. I truly appreciate it. And you shine, like there's something that shines through you. And I'm so sure this is coming across through this episode. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to speak with you. Thank you for sharing everything. Thank you for the work that you do. You do amazing things, and you will do amazing things in the future for yourself and for others.
Thank you as well for having me here as well. So I appreciate you, Lucy, for this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we would love to see you more frequently on the Neurolympics podcast. So please make sure to subscribe to any of our platforms. You can find us under www.brainsfirst.com/podcast. And also, if you enjoyed this episode, we have more for you. So you can click on one of our previous episodes that are shown in the video now.